Activate back. Oh! Man, they've done it again. Even in the fight where Ian looked great, Islam is still able to look like the best in the world.
And it's fine. Just boring fuck, dude. He landed a head kick in round 2, and other than that, he did nothing! For 20 minutes! He did fucking nothing! That's the truth! Zero! He caught him with a head kick in round 2, and other than that, he did fucking nothing! The whole fight!
Islam did it again. He now has the record for most consecutive wins in the UFC's history. This kid just continues to raise the bar. What a night, man. Unique submissions, knockouts. It had everything, and I discuss it again, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific at my YouTube channel. Let's go.
Oh! Oh, shit! Get them up! He's the best.
Wow. Oh, God, this is a beautiful kick. One of the things that Islam's doing very well right now is he's always staying outside that lead leg each time he strikes. Or if he goes in front, he's going super wide. That's why Ian Garry's having a hard time reaching him. And in Islam, when he gets close, he starts creeping outside that lead leg. It's because his head's on the outside. That's why each time Ian Garry's able to do that defense. All right, keep wrestling. Keep wrestling, keep wrestling, keep wrestling, keep wrestling. He's got to beat this time. He got it. Good job. All right, boys, let me get in the shop and break this down for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, he did what he had to do and was really tested in ways that we haven't seen him tested before. I mean, it was a difficult fight. Although he won by, you know, a good margin, a healthy margin, there was moments where you're used to Islam having a certain amount of control and dominance that he just didn't seem to have.
I felt like I think that Ian is a talented guy. If he had even an ounce of killer instinct in that 5th round, you know, he had been beating him to the body. Islam's whole, I think, right side was beat up. His face was beat up. You don't come out and hug and shake hands in the fight. That shit drives me fucking crazy when there's so much at stake, and there's also, you know, a lot of mental. You know, gamesmanship, whatever you want to call it in this game. You come out in that 5th round with a flying knee or something crazy and you try to finish the fight. I think that this is one of those fights that Ian will go back and watch and say, fuck, wish I could do that over again.
Ring pep talks during the fight that he gave Islam. I didn't get it. But I can't give Ian Garry a hard time. He fought really well. He was very controlled. He was very patient. Both guys, I got to give Islam that same compliment. I mean, they stood there across from each other, just sizing each other up. But that was a game of flinch, if you will. Hey, Islam, come get me so I can knee you in the face. Hey, Garry, come get me so I can catch something and tackle you. Because of that, though, because of some of those stalemates, it preserved energy. And if you preserve energy with Ian Garry, you're allowing him to preserve power.
What about the fight maybe surprised you the most? Was it like his resistance on the takedown? Was it his striking, if anything at all?
Jan is a good opponent, you know, and very hard to fight with someone who stand and wait, you know. He just waiting, and very hard to show good performance with someone like that. He like stand, I see his leg, try to take him down. He have like some good defense, you know, but very hard to show good performance with someone like that.
You clearly won the first 2 rounds, and then 2 of the judges gave him the 3rd and the 4th. So it was, you know, getting pretty close in that 5th round. Did you feel you needed to go and, you know, get that takedown with a few minutes left and just close the fight strong?
Of course, this is some of them give 1 round or 4th rounds, but I feel I won the 3 rounds, before the last round, But Khabib and all corners say you have to win the last round. And on the last round, I feel I can take him down, do something more, because this third and fourth round not like very tough, and I have like power to finish, to go show the good performance end of the fight,
And you dropped him with that head kick in the second. Did you think you were going to be able to get him out of there in that moment?
Yeah, I just told in some media, he happy I don't have big leg, I just catch him with my fingers, and it's good shot, After that, I try to land it some punch, go crazy, don't control my emotion, and almost finish him.
And this was a dogfight for him, man. This was a difficult fight. We all kind of felt like this was going to be a tough matchup for him, but Islam Makhachev clutched up, and that's really what it came down to. First round, I gave him that round. Landed like a nice kind of head kick on the guard, boom, straight down to the single leg, head on the outside. I liked the way that he was kind of sitting Ian Garry down and then reaching over for that double leg and getting on top of the hips. And then when Ian Garry would turn and go to the cage, Islam just kept his hands together on that back body lock really well. First round was pretty boring, nothing really happened. Garry did a good job to stay on his hands and feet in that kind of the 4-point frame, and Islam Makhachev, just the grip strength, just the grip and the girth and tonnage to keep a hold of Ian Machado Ferry. I've never seen anything quite like it. But yeah, no damage, but Islam obviously won the first round. Second round, listen, Ian Garry was doing good, okay? And this is where I had a little bit of fun watching this fight, okay, dude? Ian Garry's doing okay. He's letting his oblique kicks. He's fighting that lean hand quite well. Obviously, that open stance battle, when you're the taller, bigger guy, that opens up your kicks to the body and the head and the legs very, very well, especially an oblique kick. Obviously, inside leg kicks are a little bit more tricky to manage. Islam was, kind of getting, stuck at the end of that range.
Islam Makhachev got the win over Ian Machado Garry at UFC 330, but the reaction afterward tells a much bigger story. This was not simply another result added to Makhachev's record. It was a fight that forced people to look closely at what happens when an elite grappler faces a long, technical striker who refuses to make the fight comfortable. And while the final result may have favored Makhachev, the way the fight unfolded has given the MMA world plenty to debate. Joe Rogan and other respected voices around the sport have been paying attention to exactly that question. How much did Makhachev have to solve inside the cage? And what does Garry's performance say about where both men go from here? The interesting part is that this fight cannot be understood simply by looking at who got his hand raised. The real story is in the exchanges, the adjustments, and the moments where each fighter was able to take the other outside his preferred rhythm. From the opening moments, the matchup presented an obvious tactical battle. Makhachev wanted to turn the fight into a contest of control, positioning, pressure, and grappling. Garry needed space. He needed distance. He needed to make Makhachev work before allowing him to establish the kind of sustained control that has defined so much of his success. That is what made this matchup so fascinating. Garry's size, reach, movement, and striking variety created a completely different set of problems from what Makhachev normally wants to see. He could not simply walk forward without considering the counterattack. Every entry had to be timed. Every takedown attempt carried the risk of being met with a knee, a straight shot, or an angle that forced Makhachev to reset. But Makhachev has built his career around making opponents uncomfortable in exactly those moments. The champion's greatest weapon is not just his ability to take someone down, it is the way he connects different phases of MMA together. A strike can become a clinch can become a takedown can become control, and once an opponent begins thinking about the ground, openings can appear on the feet. That chain is what Garry had to disrupt. And early in the fight, the Irishman showed why people were so interested in seeing this matchup. He was not simply standing in front of Makhachev waiting for the inevitable grappling sequence. He had to manage distance, recognize the entries, and make Makhachev pay whenever possible. That created a fight where every exchange carried a different kind of tension. For Garry, the challenge was never going to be just surviving the wrestling. He needed to create enough offense to make Makhachev hesitate. That distinction matters. Against a fighter like Makhachev, simply defending takedowns is not necessarily enough. If you spend the entire fight reacting, eventually the pressure begins to accumulate. Your feet stop moving the way they did did in the first round, your reactions slow down. Your opponent starts predicting your defensive habits. Suddenly, the same takedown attempt that you defended earlier begins landing. That is why analysts within the combat sports community have pointed out the importance of Garry's composure. The question was whether he could remain dangerous while being forced to defend against one of the most sophisticated grappling games in the sport. Makhachev, meanwhile, had his own problem. He could not afford to become predictable. Garry's striking threat meant that every entry had to be calculated. If Makhachev rushed forward recklessly, he could give Garry exactly the range he wanted. But if he stayed too far away, Garry could begin dictating the fight with his movement and long-range attacks. So the battle became a question of who could impose his preferred geography. Makhachev wanted the fight compressed. Garry wanted it stretched out. That simple difference explains much of what made the fight so compelling. Once Makhachev was able to establish grappling exchanges, the dynamics changed. Garry was forced to spend energy defending positions, fighting for frames, creating space, and getting back to his feet. Even when an opponent escapes a takedown, the physical cost can still be significant. And this is where Makhachev's championship experience becomes so important. He does not necessarily need one spectacular moment to win a fight. He can accumulate advantages. He can make an opponent defend one problem, then immediately introduce another. He can attack the legs, control the upper body, threaten transitions, and force the opponent to make decisions while already under pressure. Several respected voices have noted that this is what separates high-level MMA grappling from simply being good at wrestling. The goal is not only to put an opponent on the canvas, the goal is to make every position create another problem. Garry's response was equally important because he had to keep convincing Makhachev that closing the distance came with a price. And that is why the result should not erase what made the fight competitive. A close fight can still be a revealing fight. For Makhachev, the victory reinforces his ability to adapt against a very different style. For Garry, the performance provides something that cannot be measured by the win column alone. Evidence about how he handles elite championship level pressure when the fight does not stay where he wants it. The general sentiment among professionals who have studied this closely is not to dismiss Garry simply because he lost. If anything, this type of fight can become one of the most valuable experiences of a fighter's career. Garry now has information. He knows what Makhachev's pressure feels like. He knows how difficult it is to maintain striking distance when the opponent is constantly threatening to change levels. And he knows which moments allowed Makhachev to turn striking exchanges into grappling sequences. That information could become extremely important if Garry eventually faces another fighter with a similar style. But there is another side to this. Makhachev also received information. He saw how a rangy, mobile striker could make certain entries more complicated. He saw the importance of managing distance against a fighter who can attack from long range, and he was forced to make adjustments rather than simply relying on the same approach from beginning to end. That is why this result matters beyond UFC 330. For Makhachev, the win strengthens the argument that his game continues to evolve. The most dangerous version of a dominant champion is not the fighter who repeats the same performance every time. It is the fighter who can recognize what an opponent is giving him and change the fight accordingly. For Garry, the next chapter may be even more interesting. A loss like this does not automatically destroy a contender's momentum. What matters is what happens afterward. Does he identify the moments where he gave Makhachev opportunities? Does he improve his defensive wrestling? Does he become more efficient at maintaining distance? Can he punish grappling entries without giving up his own balance and positioning? Those are the questions that will determine whether this becomes a setback or a turning point. And then there is the reaction from Joe Rogan and the wider MMA community. Rogan's perspective carries attention because he has spent decades studying the technical and physical demands of combat sports. But the larger conversation is bigger than one commentator. Fighters, coaches, analysts, and longtime observers are naturally interested whenever a matchup tests the limits of an established champion's style. That is exactly what UFC 330 gave them. It gave the sport a chance to examine Makhachev against a fighter who could not simply be categorized as another opponent waiting to be taken down. And perhaps the biggest takeaway is that neither fighter's future should be judged solely by the final score. Makhachev leaves with the victory, but Garry leaves with experience that could fundamentally shape the next stage of his career. The question now becomes what each man does with what he learned. For Makhachev, the next challenge is maintaining that level while the division continues searching for a style capable of disrupting his rhythm. Every successful defense increases the pressure because opponents are no longer trying to discover whether the champion is good enough. They are trying to discover the specific weakness that can finally force him out of his comfort zone. For Garry, the mission is different. He has to turn the lessons from this fight into development. The striking tools are still there. The size and movement are still there. But against fighters who can consistently force grappling exchanges, every defensive detail matters. And that may be the most important story coming out of UFC 330. Makhachev proved once again again that winning at the highest level is not about having one perfect weapon. It is about making the opponent deal with problems faster than he can solve them. Garry showed that he could stay in that difficult environment and compete through it. Now the question is whether the next version of Ian Machado Garry will be better because of this experience. And for Makhachev, perhaps the bigger question is even more intriguing. If a fighter as technically gifted and physically difficult as Garry could push him into a closely contested battle, who in the division has the complete game necessary to take that final step and actually beat him? That is what makes this result so important. It was not just about who won UFC 330, it was about what the fight revealed. So after seeing Makhachev and Garry go through that battle, do you believe Makhachev clearly proved that he remains a level above the division, or did Garry reveal a blueprint that future opponents can build on? Let me know what you think, and subscribe for more combat sports news, fight analysis, reactions, and predictions.